In our world today, two forces are reshaping humanity's future: climate change and economic inequality. The numbers tell a stark story. The richest 10% of the global population produces half of all carbon emissions, while the poorest 50% contributes only 10%. Think about this. When a climate disaster strikes, wealthy communities rebuild in months, but poorer regions can take years, sometimes decades, to recover. It's not just a coincidence. It's a pattern we see everywhere, from flooded coastlines in Bangladesh to drought-stricken farms in Africa. But why does this happen? How did we reach a point where your bank account might determine whether you survive a climate disaster? And more importantly, what can we do about it? These aren't just environmental questions or economic problems. They're human stories. Stories of farmers watching their lands turn to dust while massive corporations continue to pollute. Stories of island nations slowly disappearing under rising seas while wealthy countries debate the cost of action. As we explore these connections between our warming planet and the growing wealth gap, we'll ask three essential questions. How does climate change make economic inequality worse? Why do the world's poorest suffer the most from a problem they didn't create? What solutions could help both our planet and its people? This is where our story begins, a story that affects every one of us, no matter where we live or what we own. Part 1. The cycle of inequality. Picture two different worlds facing the same storm. In Miami, seawalls protect luxury homes. But in Manila's poorest areas, families watch as their homes flood repeatedly, with no protection at all. This is the cruel cycle of climate inequality. When crops fail due to unusual weather, wealthy nations import food. But in countries like Sudan, failed harvests mean immediate hunger. A farmer loses not just their crop, but their entire savings. Water tells a similar story. While developed nations build advanced purification systems, over 2 billion people watch their water sources dry up or become polluted. They can't afford the technology to adapt. The barriers are simply too high. While rich nations spend billions on climate protection, developing countries face an impossible choice: build flood defenses or fund schools and hospitals. Most can't afford both. And so, the cycle continues. Climate disasters strike, the poor get poorer, and the gap grows wider. Part 2. Industrial nations and carbon footprint. Look back 200 years, and you'll see where our story took a turning point. The Industrial Revolution transformed some nations into powerhouses of wealth, but at a heavy cost to our planet. The factories of Europe and America released centuries' worth of carbon into our skies, while their economies soared. Today, these same nations hold 80% of the world's wealth, but the smoke from their past still lingers. Think of it this way. A single American produces as much carbon in 1 year as 30 people in India. The solution seems simple. Switch to clean energy. But here's the catch. While solar panels and wind turbines get cheaper, they're still out of reach for many. A poor nation facing daily blackouts can't easily invest billions in a green power grid. It's like a club with an expensive entry fee. Only those who benefited from pollution can afford to stop polluting. Part 3. Vulnerable communities. Meet Maria from the Philippines. Her fishing village, home to generations, now floods with every storm. The fish have moved to cooler waters, and her family's income has dropped by half. In Ethiopia, Ahmed's coffee farm is failing. Rising temperatures have killed his plants, ending a family business that supported 30 people. He can't afford drought-resistant seeds. And in Louisiana, Sarah's community has faced 3 major hurricanes in 5 years. While wealthy neighborhoods rebuild quickly with insurance money, her uninsured neighbors live in temporary shelters, stuck in a cycle of disaster and debt. These aren't just stories, they're the new normal for billions. When crops fail, food prices soar. When homes are lost, families become climate refugees. The United Nations estimates that 200 million people might be forced to move by 2050. For these communities, each disaster isn't just a tragedy, it's a financial blow they may never recover from. Part 4. The way forward. But there's hope on the horizon. In Bangladesh, floating gardens help farmers grow food during floods. In Kenya, mobile banking helps small farmers buy climate-resistant seeds. These simple innovations are changing lives. The world is also waking up. The Green Climate Fund, supported by wealthy nations, is helping poorer countries build solar farms and flood defenses. Costa Rica shows us it's possible. They've achieved 98% renewable energy while growing their economy. International cooperation is key. When nations share green technology freely, everyone wins. India's massive solar power projects are succeeding because global partners made it affordable. We're learning that protecting the environment and fighting poverty can go hand in hand. Renewable energy creates jobs. Forest protection helps local communities. Clean water improves health and saves money. The solutions exist. What we need now is the will to make them happen. Together, we can build a future that works for everyone. As we've seen, climate change and inequality aren't separate challenges. They're two sides of the same coin. But every day, people are proving we can tackle both. Look at Morocco's solar farm in the Sahara, built with local workers, providing clean power to thousands. Or Singapore's community gardens, where rich and poor neighborhoods work together, growing food and building resilience. These successes show us what's possible when we act as one global community. But they're just the beginning. We need more than individual actions. We need a revolution in how we think about progress. Imagine a world where clean energy isn't a luxury, but a right. Where protecting the environment creates jobs instead of destroying them. Where a farmer in Vietnam has the same tools to face climate change as a farmer in California. This isn't just a dream. It's a choice we can make today. Every policy we support, every technology we share, every investment we make can help build this future. The question isn't whether we can create a world that's both sustainable and fair. The question is, will we choose to do it? Because the truth is simple. Either we rise together or we fall together. The future belongs to all of us. And it's time we started acting like it.